really talked about it much on this channel yet, but I'm someone who really loves character design. I'm the kind of guy who has almost a dozen ideas for stories and can't help but want to flesh them out as much as he can, in the hope that someday I'll be able to write them all in full. And of course, any good character needs a good character design. But the thing is, you can't start off being good at everything. I'm someone who really values self-improvement, so I tend to look back and reflect on how far I've come with my art. Because honestly, when I look back at what I was creating 3 years ago, I generally don't have the best things to say. Case in point, Flynn Rainridge. Yes, this is what my art looked like when I was 17. We all gotta start from somewhere. I just started a lot later than most artists. But even beyond the art style, this design really doesn't vibe with me. A good character design should inform you of a character's origin and traits, but I won't be surprised if you couldn't tell. So I'll just have to explain it for you. So I created Flynn Rainridge for a game concept in early 2020. It was going to be a Bejeweled-inspired match-free game, where the goal is to match elemental crystals and merge them to create more elements and try to make progress in your alchemy journey. That's right, Flynn here is an alchemist. And the reason why he pursued alchemy is because he broke his arm beyond repair as a young boy and he wants to find a way to restore it. This is literally Full Metal Alchemist, but bad! And you realise that curing disabled characters is inherently problematic, right? As a neurodivergent person, I should know. But anyway, that's his whole deal. On the whole, I really don't look back on Flynn too fondly. Which is why today, I've decided to take another look at this character and give him a much needed facelift. So without further ado, let's start the makeover. With this redesign, I wanted to try something a bit different. My goal was to draw one full body shot of Flynn and another more close-up shot on the side. I normally just draw the character once on their own, but I've been meaning to experiment with other ways to fill up the canvas. At first I was going to give Flynn a book to read in the full body shot, but I didn't want to obscure his body with the book, since the intention of that shot is to showcase his full design. So I decided to move the book to the close-up shot, but we'll get there eventually. Getting to the first big change for this redesign, the hair. The way I draw hair has changed a lot in the past 3 years. The original intention was for Flynn's hair to be messy, though it doesn't really read like that when the spikes are all so small, and the top of the hair is completely flat. Modern mirror hair has a lot more volume and more clearly defined shapes compared to whatever I used to draw back then. Aside from the general art style changes, I also tried to give the hair tufts some variation to their size and shape, to really sell that they're meant to be messy. And then I added this little loose strand on the top corner of his hair, since that's where his hair kind of points up in the original design. Also, while I was sketching this art, I was considering giving Flynn sideburns, but ultimately decided against it. I also wanted to give Flynn a more distinctive face to imply a lot more personality. I originally described him as stubborn and apathetic, but that never came across in the way I drew him. He tended to look pretty chill. I wanted this redesign's face to really sell that he doesn't want to stay in chat, so I gave his eyes a flat top edge that makes it look like he's constantly judging you. These are the same eyes that I gave to Matt from the Power of 5 series. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I recommend you watch my Raven's Gate video. Another thing I added to the face was a pretty big scar. His original design had a few cuts and scabs on it, but they weren't really noticeable, so I decided to carry through with that idea and give him a much more notable injury. I was very much inspired by Hunter from the Owl House when it came to the shape and placement of the scar. Now we get to changing the outfit, because oh boy, this is a process! I'm essentially starting from scratch with Flynn's clothes, since I just wasn't vibing with the original. Like I said, good character design should tell you something about who this person is, and there's really nothing to say about the old design. Aside from the bandaged arm, he just looks like any modern pedestrian. So this time around, I wanted to give Flynn more of a medieval fantasy outfit as opposed to modern casual. I think this change of setting and genre fits being an alchemist a lot better, and allows me to give him an outfit that implies his profession a lot more clearly. So I tried to give Flynn a fancy, suit-like uniform with a capelet, because I wanted to lean into giving him more of a professional air. Now the inspiration for this outfit actually came from the YouTuber Benjamin and his new avatar design. I've been a fan of his videos for several years, and I'd recommend him if chill and positive game reviews are your sort of thing. But anyway, the cut of this outfit was something that would work well for Flynn, along with the inclusion of the capelet. But at some point, I guess I started second-guessing myself on that capelet, because I ended up removing it. And that's where the chaos started! What followed was a straight hour of me struggling to come up with an outfit for this guy. I tried different collars, I tried different capelets, I even tried a scarf a couple of times, but nothing was seeming to stick. So eventually I swallowed my pride and decided to ask my intimate friends for ideas. In particular, I sent the design to my good friend Issa, asking her if she had ideas for a collar and for some kind of shoulder decoration. And she suggested that I give him an open collar and a coat cape, mentioning Byleth from Fire Emblem Free Houses as a reference I could use for the latter. Man, I'm so happy that Issa helped me out there, because I really liked her suggestions. First with Grass type Pseudo Wudo, and now this. She's 2 for 2 on helping me out on decision paralysis amid Speedpaint. Thanks, Issa! So with those suggestions, I was able to get the outfit to a place I was happy with. I was done with the full body sketch and was about to get started with the close-up, but then I ended up getting another recommendation from another place I'd shared my problem in. Cinnamon Spiders suggested that I give Flynn a bag to keep his alchemy equipment, which is a good call, so I went ahead and quickly added it in. I feel like in general, I need to put more thought into accessories and carried equipment in my character designs. I think I might have a bit of a narrow mindset in that regard, because I put all my thought into the outfit, hair, and face being important to get right, but I definitely want to put more thought into accessories and such in the future, because they're another good way to show what a character's all about. But anyway, now we're getting to the line art, and I don't really have much to say here. So I think I'll just focus on talking about the character of this redesigned Flynn Rainridge. Like I said, I'm specifically imagining him in a medieval fantasy sort of setting. He lives in this stone and rivers city, kind of a darker coloured Venice, and he runs a small alchemy shop where he sells potions and such. But when he's not running the store, he's often going out on excursions so he can search for potion ingredients in the great outdoors, all while stopping at every library he finds to do some reading and research. Flynn definitely looks like the sort of person who hates human interaction and wants to avoid it at all costs, and he definitely behaves like that when he's out looking for stuff. But I imagine that's because he's a workaholic who's married to his alchemy research, and when he's not out searching, he's surprisingly relaxed and easy to talk to. He could probably talk for hours about alchemy, whether it be the theory or the history that he recently discovered, though I imagine he's a lot more calm with the customers in his shop. Also, note that Flynn's arm is still covered in bandages. He's still disabled, and he's probably still been that way since his youth, though I think I want to change the cause. Rather than his arm being straight up broken, maybe it was burned in an alchemy accident. But more notably, he's no longer wanting to cure his injured arm. Again, because curing disabled characters is bad, and he can function just fine with only one arm. He's totally chill with it. I'd also like to share a few facts about what inspired me to create Flynn in the first place. I first got attached to the alchemy idea from playing this game called Little Alchemy 2. It's a game where you merge elements together to create more elements and keep on going until you complete the set. I distinctly remember playing it on the school computers in secondary school, usually in ICT class when I had the time to myself. Oh yeah, and actually recently I've rediscovered Little Alchemy while writing the script, and I started playing it again, and I've quickly gotten very hooked. It's become a bit of a phase now. I feel like we're meeting the spiritual successor to my cookie clicker phase from last year. Should I make a video about my cookie clicker phase? But anyway, let's get back on topic. So, here's another thing about Flynn's story. At first, I actually had an idea for a story with these winged humans, kind of like a society of angels, but I wasn't sure what to do with them. But then once I had the alchemy idea, I decided to combine it with the bird people idea. Though I then ended up scrapping the bird people from the project. I remember I did this because I already had a bird people idea in another project, which ironically has not seen the light of day. But I still really like the idea of humans with wings, so maybe I'll bring that project back? Again, we'll see. So that's the line art all done. Now we've made it to the colours. I wanted to follow Flynn's original colour scheme, so the skin and hair were kept the same. I did change the eyes a bit though. I kind of like the greyish blue of the original, but I felt that they were more interesting with more of a purple tint. This is also where I added the pupils, and I think that look to the side really adds to the personality of the final piece. Now for Flynn's outfit, I wanted to stay away from the casual and friendly colours of the original, and instead go for something darker, moodier, and more professional looking, since that's the vibe we're going for in this redesign. But I still wanted to give him a blue colour scheme overall, since his name is Flynn Rainridge. I will admit, a lot of my main protagonist OCs are very blue-coded, but honestly, I'm not sure if Flynn's giving me main protagonist vibes anymore. He also gives third-party member in an RPG vibes. Yeah. While I colour in his clothes, I just want to give a little bit of advice with colour composition. Generally speaking, I try to avoid the same or similar colours from overlapping, so so that the sections of the character's design read more clearly. Like with Flynn here. I made his shirt blue, then made the undershirt below it light grey, and the coat over the top dark grey. Those three colours all stand out from each other, and that makes it easy to tell those parts of the design apart. Sometimes you run into stuff like with Flynn's cape having the same colour as the shoulder coat, but there are workarounds for that, like shading and gradients. Speaking of the shading, I decided to take things pretty simple with it. Since the whole focus of this piece is on showcasing a redesign, I just went for some light cell shading so that it doesn't distract from the design. Now, in the past, I've used multiply layers on a reduced opacity for my shading, but lately, I've found it easier to apply the shading colours directly on a normal layer. That way, I have a lot more control over the exact colour of the shadows. Of course, I haven't been doing this for every piece I've done, since the way I do my shading is different for every individual art project I tackle. But I think this habit of using exact colours for shadows came about during my last video, where I was replicating the Pokemon style, and referenced the shading colours heavily so I could get them to look right. So most of the shading was pretty straightforward to apply, though there were two things I wanted to do to make the piece a bit more interesting to look at. Starting with the cape, like I mentioned before, I wanted to ensure that it didn't blend in with the shoulder pieces, since they're the same colour and all. What I did was I gave the cape's shadow a gradient, making it darker at the top so that it stands out more from the shadows on the shoulders. The second thing I wanted to modify was the colours of the hair. I don't know, I guess I just thought it was a little too plain. This was less of a shading change and more of a flat colour change, but I wanted to add a darker gradient to the back of the hair, just to make it a little more visually interesting. And then I had to apply the same gradient onto the shading as well, which was a bit of a hassle, but thankfully it all turned out fine. Though I guess I still wanted to add more to the hair, so I also added a little bit of glow to the top. But anyway, that should be everything I want to say about this piece. Let's take a look at the final result. So here we are! I'm definitely happy with how this redesign came out. I think Flynn has a much stronger theme and a clearer personality, and his design is more interesting and distinct as well. What do you guys think of Flynn's redesign? What do you think of Flynn Rainridge in general? Let me know in the comments. And hey, if you want to draw fan art of Flynn, you're absolutely free to do so. If you do want to draw fan art for any of my original characters, make sure you post it with the hashtag MirrorSamuraiFanArt so I can be sure to see it. Okay, so for this next part of the outro, I want to share a little bit of news with you guys. Since we're getting pretty close to 100 subscribers, I've got an idea for a special video to celebrate that milestone. I know 100 subscribers is really small by artist standards, but it still took me 7 months to get there, cut me some slack. Speaking of my old art, I've been meaning to redraw my very first piece of digital art. And once we hit 100 subscribers, I'll be sure to do so. So if you want to see that, yeah, subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it. If you want other ways to give me support, you can leave a like on this video and follow me on Instagram to see more of my art. I'm not sure what my next video is going to be, assuming it's not the 100 subscriber special, but I think I have a few solid ideas in my backlog. But anyway, that should wrap up this video. Stay hopeful, don't give up on your dreams, don't give up on your terrible old OCs either, and I'll see you all next time.